in less than a year and a half, I had a top 18 and I performed on the Late Show with David Letterman, which I still don't believe.
That is
And
unbelievable.
and I got to say, I wasn't quite ready for it. So I wish it would have taken a little more time because, that's a huge step. You want to start
Yeah,
local
that's a
TV,
big deal.
before going to a major network like that, late night, prime time. So that was a huge
Yeah.
step.
Hey, y'all, welcome to Come and Pick It. I'm Anthony Bonnette, and today's guest is Robby Johnson. Robby, thanks so much for being here with us.
Well, Anthony, thank you so much for having me on your podcast. I'm looking forward to it. Let's have this conversation.
I don't know if anybody ever told you, you look something like the guy from what's that movie? What's the A-Team guy? Bradley Cooper. Do you ever get that you look something like Bradley Cooper?
Yeah, I do get that. And when I'm downtown Nashville, a lot of people stop me and they think that I'm Dirk Bentley. I get that all the time because
Oh,
of the long
yeah.
hair and
I can see that too.
when he just did a show, at Bridgestone, and after the show, I was downtown, and people were like, "Oh, great show tonight!" Hey, yeah, awesome, yeah.
So you
I get
signed a
free
lot of
beer because of
autographs.
that, so that's good.
So where'd you grow up, Robby?
I grew up, most of my summers I spent in Hartford, Connecticut at my grandparents' house. And that's where my single More Than Anything comes from. Playing on Putnam Street. My grandfather was a janitor for the school and church at the same time. They were tied together. So I would spend the day in the gymnasium playing sports with my older brothers. There was a piano. We would fool around on the piano and do all that. So great summers, going to the drive-in, all that, the movies, the music, MTV, all of that. That was pretty great growing up. And also the holidays I would spend at my grandma's house, and that had a huge impact on my life growing up. So yeah.
It sounds pretty idyllic.
Well, no, because my parents divorced. I was 5 years old, and it shattered me. I mean, it when you're five, the foundations of your life is mommy and daddy and family and all that. And when he completely left, and we stopped seeing him. It was like, oh my God, what just happened? You can't, that 5-year-old boy still and will never understand what happened, because I started a new life on that day when it happened. Because I have memories of, visual memory of when my father was there, but no emotions with the images that are in my memory. So I really started a new kid, 5 years old, and started a new life. And I try not to get inside that little 5-year-old because that's tough. That's tough.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, it wasn't perfect. I grew up in poverty, so it was great that my grandparents, we'd spent a lot of time there, and also my grandparents worked multiple jobs. Sometimes they would send money for the Christmas gifts, because my mom could afford to buy Christmas gifts or birthday gifts, and some clothing, shoes, and all that. So they took good care of us. It was still very tough. I remember in high school, there was a point where I didn't have any money to buy the 50 cent bus ride to go have lunch at home. And even if I did, there wasn't really anything to eat, so I would just stay in school and drink water. In high school, that was pretty
Yeah.
tough. So yeah.
Yeah.
It wasn't that
So
easy.
I'll take back what I said about idyllic. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, at my grandparents' house, it was. I mean,
It was.
Christmas was amazing, and the summers were amazing because we would travel around, all the East Coast and visit all sorts of things, and driving around. That was really awesome. Great memories.
It does sound like there are some happy memories in there, and that sounds
Yeah.
like a good mix for a songwriter. You've got to have a little bit of the happy and a little bit of the sad to make a good song. Some hope and some anguish, and you know,
Yeah, and I mean it's hard to connect with everybody's, we say country music is authentic, it's genuine and all that, but if you had the perfect life where, I don't know, you're the son of a rich person in the music industry or something, and you have it easy where, all your, that it's going to happen, and it's not the same. You don't have the same struggles. Yes, you do. You still have some
right,
struggles, but it's not the same, and it doesn't
right,
bring as much, to the table. And we also, oftentimes you will see an amazing young country artist, and he's amazing. I mean, amazing voice and all that, but he didn't go through enough stuff to be kind of credible or have, where we would connect, because he's too young and he hasn't been through all what we've
mm-hmm,
been through. So it's that's why,
mm-hmm,
oftentimes you will see them not until, late 20s 30s, when they will start to really you know do music that really hits you. It's like, oh my god, this is really good, and I relate to this. And
right,
it's a little harder when they're younger.
yeah. I write some, and I sing a little bit apart from what we're doing here, but it was that way for me. My childhood was pretty generally happy. I mean, we were kind of lower class. I did not come from a middle class family, so but apart from that, apart from the money, it was super happy, super normal, super laid back. And so I grew up, when I started writing, it was just kind of everything was sort of basic, and I didn't really have any pain to write from. So it took me to my early 40s probably to write anything that that normal people could connect to, I think.
You got mortgage, you got so many things that, kids and all
Yeah,
that. It creates yeah. So I totally get
absolutely.
it takes a little of that, to get more behind your belt. And
Hmm.
yeah, totally agree with you.
It does. And also to like grow as a human, you get more reflective, and most of us do get more reflective and get a little wisdom, I guess. I think the Bible talks some about wisdom. You get a little bit of that under your belt, and you actually know
Yeah.
what these things mean.
Yeah, you
And
start you
so
start connecting the
maybe you
dots.
have more to say.
Exactly. Yeah, you start connecting the dots, and totally. I mean,
Hmm.
I would not go back to my 20s. When you kind of think you know everything, but in fact you're a little clueless, and I wouldn't go back
No, I wouldn't want to. So, talking about your childhood, I didn't hear a lot of music in your childhood. When did music kind of happen to you?
Well, there was, my older brother. One of my older brothers played guitar. It was a classic, more of a gut string guitar, and I would, listen to a lot of music, but never. The thing about me is that I started my music career very later in life. Actually, I always thought, you know, I never thought that I'd be an artist or even a singer. And it's only
Hmm.
until very later that it came. And, looking back, music was always present. Many genres of music was, present in my life and all that. But it's until later that I realized how much it was important to me and had a huge impact. But yeah, I got into music way later. I had so many lives before this, My last job that I did was a sales rep on the road selling industrial products, listening to radio,
Hmm.
country radio, never even thinking that I could, one day be on the radio, play on the radio, and do all that. So it was kind of weird, but I got a Christmas gift. And back then, it was like the worst Christmas gift ever. My girlfriend back then, she was like, "You don't hear yourself," because I would write songs. I'm very creative, and so I would write songs, and I would just sing them in the car, in the shower, and all. And she was like, "You're not hearing yourself." So she gave me this gift, which was a demo session in a studio to cut one of my songs, and I thought it was the worst gift ever because I wasn't. I never thought I'd be an artist. I was like, no, that's never going to happen. And what's funny is that every time I say never, it always happens. I was like, I'm never going to be a waiter. I was a waiter. I'm never going to be a sales rep on the road. I was a sales rep on the road. I'm never going to have kids. I have two wonderful kids that I adore. I'm never going to be an artist. And boom, it happened. I think it's because deep down inside, I already knew it, and I don't know, afraid. I didn't want to face it, and I just needed that little push in the studio. So that's how it started for me. And but country music, it's really at, again in Hartford. I was with my cousin, and he had a player, and he was like, "Hey, have you heard this guy?" I'm like, "No, I haven't." So he gives me the headphones, and he starts playing the song, and I'm like, "Oh my god, that singer he's talking to me," and I'm like the most important person in the world, and that was Garth Brooks. And oh my god, that really changed everything for me. I guess, I loved country music before that. Dolly, Kenny, John Denver, Cash, and all that,
Right.
and all the other acts. But I guess, like I said earlier, I needed to go through more stuff and realize things and connect the dots to fully understand and grasp what country music was about. And that's when it happened, when it switched, where, oh my God, I love this. So when I started doing music, it was country. So
Hey, y'all, I want to talk to you a minute about t-shirts. You can check this one out right here. It says, "Come and pick it." And I know y'all like that. I hope you also like this shirt with this good-looking fella on the front, the guy without a mustache. He's kind of pretty if you if you like kind of a softer looking guy. He's good looking. We got this one here without the guy on there, Anthony Bonnette and Lone Star Steel. Then we got this one that says Anthony Bonnette and Lone Star Steel. It's a navy version. All these shirts have been upgraded to a new, softer style. We really like these new t-shirts. As you can see, I'm wearing one right now. And here's an oldie but a goodie Bonnette song. Any of y'all that know, if you know, you know. It's that kind of a thing. There are more styles available online, more stuff available online, coffee cups and all kind of stuff like that. There's flags. There's come and pick it flags you can get. So there's a lot of stuff on there. I hope y'all go check it all out. Check it out at anthonybonnette.com.
yeah, I went in the studio, and I was like, okay, let's be done with this. And I'm like, let's do a country rock song. I'll be there rocking and rolling. That was a song that I had written. I was like, let's do this so that, the players, everybody has fun. I wasn't going there to cut a hit song. It was really for everybody to have fun. And as soon as I started singing, they were like, wait a minute, who are you? Where do you come from? I mean, you should be in Nashville. This sounds like Nashville, man. And they were really impressed. And it kind of like, oh, no, let's be done with it. But, that day in the studio, I felt at peace with myself, listening back to the track, going back home in the car. I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, this might be something there. And so it just happened gradually. And here I am in Nashville now.
Yeah, that's pretty
From
cool.
a
So
from a Christmas
what year
gift.
was that?
That was about 10 years ago.
Yeah, that's a good gift. 10
Yeah,
years. So, I mean,
yeah,
you weren't that old 10 years ago. Not to give away our age. We don't want to age ourselves,
yeah.
but yeah, I mean, that's been a pretty good run. You've had a good 10-year run. I was looking at watching the South of Me. I think it was South of Me, and so we did some. It's had like 3 million views on YouTube, which is an incredible number for an independent artist. I'm curious how you guys did that well on YouTube as an independent.
Right. So yeah, it started with South of Me, but before South of Me, I had released "I'll Be There, Rockin' and Rollin'" on Facebook, and a bunch of people reached out to me from LA, New York, everywhere, and there was one in particular, Tom Roach, who worked with the Osmonds. And he was like, "Yeah, you got to be in Nashville, and I know someone I can hook you up with over there by the name of Jimmy Nichols. He's worked with Reba, Faith Hill, he's a session player, producer, songwriter. I mean, he's played on numerous number one hits. He knows how it works. He's a genius. And so I started going back and forth to Nashville. It's funny because Jimmy kept saying, "Robby, it's a process. You're not going to be on the radio. You're definitely not going to be on TV. It's going to take time. It's a long process." But I was coming from sales, so the sky was the limit for me. So I was like, why? Why would I block myself? So we started working on a project, and on that project was South of Me. And it's funny because back then the major labels were already shifting, but we weren't aware of that back then. We were thinking, let's create a project, let's pitch it to the labels, and they will sign me. Because they love it. Well,
Mm-hmm.
they had already started signing acts that were already out there doing it, with a major following. So
Mm-hmm.
they weren't doing the artist development anymore, but we didn't know it.
Right.
So, and the labels were like, "Who's Robby Johnson?" I mean, yes, he has a great project, great voice, a great
Mm-hmm.
story, but there's nothing out there. If you type Robby Johnson, there's absolutely nothing. So we're like, okay, I decided, okay, I'm going to release a first song. I'm going to send it to radio. People are like, "Why would you do that?" You're not with a major label, or you're an indie. Don't expect much from that. And
Mm-hmm.
also, I was like, I'm going to shoot a music video. And someone told me, "Robby, you're crazy. You shoot a music video when you're top 30 on Billboard." And I was like, okay, I'm an indie artist. How am I going to get top 30 on Billboard? That's impossible. So we shot the music video in Jamaica, and then released the song to radio, released the music video, and it started going viral. Of course, I'm an indie and nobody knows me. So at the beginning, I did have, and I mean, all the major labels do it. They do advertise. Everybody promotes their music, advertise. If you start a company and you have a new product, if you don't sell it, if you don't advertise it, nobody's going to know about it. So at the beginning, we did some advertisement, and it
Right.
just snowballed. It just snowballed, and views and views and views and views and views, and it was climbing up. It's like, oh my god, this is pretty interesting. And radio kicked in, and they started playing it and sending their viewers to watch the music video, and people just loved it and shared it, and it just became viral. And yeah, so that was pretty funny because I got a top 18 on the Music Row Breakout chart, and that was huge for an indie artist,
Yeah.
for someone that wasn't supposed to be on the radio. And then I was on CMT's 12 pack. They had that on Pure CMT 12 pack countdown, and my music video won, number one multiple weeks in a row, being on TV. And then my
Wow.
first ever press release, uh, David Letterman, The Late Show wants me. So so in less than a year and a half, I had a top 18, and I performed on The Late Show with David Letterman, which I still don't
That is
believe. And
unbelievable.
Yeah, and
But
I gotta say, I wasn't quite ready for it. So I wish it would have taken a little more time because that's a huge step. You want to start
yeah,
local
that's a
TV,
big deal.
before going to a major network like that, late night, prime time. So that was a huge
Yeah.
step.
That's phenomenal. That's something on your resume though that I mean you never have to white that out. I mean, you want to put that front and center. You're right. It would be nice if it was after a little development, and after you were, but still, I mean, it's still pretty cool to have on there.
Yeah, it's cool, but at the same time, you're only as good as the last thing you release for artists,
Right.
and it's ups and downs. It's a roller coaster ride, and I keep saying, it's the best job if you want to become
Mm-hmm.
bipolar because of all the ups and downs.
Yeah.
It's crazy where one day you're on the late show and the next day you're in your house and you're vacuuming and or
Right. You're just a
one
regular
day
dude.
yeah, and one day you open for Keith Urban and there's 35,000 people screaming your name, and the next day, poof,
Mm-hmm.
nothing. It's empty. So
Yeah.
it's tough. It's tough.
Yeah, it's got to be hard for those guys too, for Keith Urban and because they're just regular dudes too at some point. So it's got to
Yeah,
be strange. Speaking of regular dudes, I've heard I have in my notes that you worked with Vince Gill on "I Ain't the Guy," and that he's got an amazing guitar solo on there. How cool was that? He's the really laid back kind of dude, isn't he?
yeah, he is, and it's that song almost never made it on the album, on my Don't Look Back album. That's an album I produced. Well, I didn't produce it, but with James Stroud, who's a great friend with Vince Gill. He's great friends with Vince Gill, and so we have this song, "I Ain't the Guy."
Okay.
We're mixing the song, and it's not working. It's not working. It doesn't sound right. It doesn't feel like it's meant to be. It's like, oh my God, this is bad. This is not good. This is really not good.
Right.
Whatever, we would play with the faders and no, it's not working. And so I remember I turned to James like, well, you're friends with Vince Gill. What if he cut a guitar solo on it? Maybe it would pimp the song or whatnot. So he's like, okay, let's do
Right.
that. So he sent it over to Vince, and he didn't come in the studio to do it. He overdubbed it at his place. But when the track came back, it was like a revelation because sometimes you want to create something. Sometimes you want to create something, and you have an agenda. You want to fabricate it, and you're not letting it what it wants to be what it wants to be. And that was the key
Hmm.
for this song. We were kind of trying too hard to do something, and he just listened to the song and he played this amazing electric, guitar solo, and it was like a eureka. We
Right.
listened to the tracks like, oh, this is what the song needs to be. So we called in Brent
Yeah.
Mason, and he just overdubbed some guitars. And it's funny because we were in the studio and we play the track to Brent, and he hears the guitar. He's like, "Oh, this is Vince Gill." He knew instantly it was Vince Gill just by the
Really.
tone, the playing.
That's
Yeah,
pretty
he
neat.
knew it instantly. Yeah. So he's like, okay, I get it. So he overdubbed guitars. We just trashed the other tracks we had, and he just redid the guitar
Hmm.
with that signature in the groove that was
Yeah.
there in that solo that Vince had brought to the table, and it saved the song. It made it on the record, and it's one of my favorites on that record. So that was
Yeah,
really cool.
songwriting is kind of like that. Songwriting it's kind of like that too with just letting a song be what it is, and really, honestly, producing the song in the studio is just kind of an extension of
Yeah.
the songwriting process. So you're so um So I find that a lot to just kind of back out and let the song be what it is, let it rest. And Vince is such a natural, laid back guy. I'm sure he has an ear for the essence of what the song wants to be. And plus, he just has fresh ears. He comes into the room
Yeah.
without all the preconceived stuff you guys have. So I bet that seems like a pretty neat experience.
Yeah, yeah, and it's crazy because sometimes I feel like all the songs, the ones that came out and the ones that are going to come out in the future, already exist somewhere where we just find them
Yeah.
because you start playing a chord progression and a melody is gonna you're gonna be inspired in melody that fits with that chord progression, and then the more you play it, you start hearing the elements that need to be with that, and you just let it out.
Mm-hmm.
And every time I fight a lyric, I screw it up, and then I have to just let it go
Definitely.
and leave it alone, and then wait some time, and then get back to it, and then I can continue. But yeah, sometimes you're like, oh, I want it to be about this, and you struggle, and you're like,
Right.
the verses, it doesn't work with the chorus. Why doesn't it work? I can't figure out a second verse, and it's because your
Right.
initial idea was a totally different song, and you're not letting it what it wants to be. As soon
Mm-hmm.
as you're like, okay, it's not a love song, it's sad, and it's a breakup song,
Right.
then it just writes by itself. It's crazy. What's even weirder is that sometimes you will write, and that's why I think it's already out there. We just find it. Sometimes you're going to write something, and it's like a thought, and it's synonyms, and it's not something you would put in the song because there's no rhyme structure and all that. But then you look at it, and then the right words that rhyme just come out, and it's like, oh, now it works. But why is it that, why then I come up with these words first, the ones that rhyme? Why did I come up with the idea? For you don't know where it comes from. It just you just write it down, and then like, oh, okay,
Mm-mm.
that's so it's like maybe I'm kind of finding it somewhere, and then I just narrow down and like, okay, this is what it wants to be. So it's a
Yeah.
weird. It's really weird. It happened to me so many times.
It is a really strange process, and I think maybe what it is we all kind of have this common foundation of these. I don't know, maybe 10,000 songs we've all heard, and so those guys that wrote those songs, especially the farther you go back, like an early Willie Nelson song when he was writing Crazy, he hadn't heard 10,000 songs when he wrote that. He might have heard 100 songs, so he didn't have all these preconceived like ideas about where the songs where you should sing when you're playing a C chord or any of
Yeah.
that. So he just kind of did a super original thing, and it is hard sometimes because it feels like sometimes when you're in a rut that maybe there aren't those original places left to go with the music.
Yeah. Yeah, when you're in a rut, yeah, sometimes it's like, oh my God, everything's been
Yeah,
done. Or the worst feeling is,
it
you
has.
come up with a you come up with a great song
Yeah,
idea, you write it down, and then you're like, oh, it reminds me of this song. And you go take a look at that song,
yeah.
and you're like, oh my God, these lyrics are 100 times better. Why would I
Exactly.
even, why would I even bother, put even more
Hmm.
energy into this when you have this, it's
Exactly.
like, oh, it's very humbling
No, no,
sometimes to go back
it
and
really is.
look at some lyrics, and you're like, oh, you think you were clever, but this is clever, so that's very humbling
Well,
to have.
let me ask you: does it help? I haven't done a lot of co-writing, but I know you've written pretty extensively with people like Ashley Gorley and Shane McAnally. Does it help to co-write and to I don't know if you room write if you write in writer rooms or not, but it seems like that would be helpful to kind of break out of whatever you're in.
Well, I did cut some songs from Ashley and Shane, and that was probably the one with Shane and was Sam Hunt and Trevor Rosen of Old Dominion. No, that wasn't. I
Cool.
cut. I didn't have the opportunity to sit down with Shane and write, or Ashley Gorley. I
Okay.
wish they were in a higher circle than mine, but still, I met Shane McAnally at the Bluebird, and when I got to Nashville, when I was working on the project with James Stroud, and I just told him, "Hey, I'm working on this project," and he's like, "Yeah, cool," and just reach out to this guy, and he sent me some songs, and one of them was a song from Sam Hunt that I cut, "Shady," great songs, and I was fortunate to have great songs from triple play writers, but I did sit down with some amazing songwriters, Anthony Smith, Frank Myers wrote "I Swear." These two wrote "Tomorrow" with Chris Young. Huge songwriters. Danny Wells,
Great song.
Check Yes or No. Danny Wells. I had the great privilege to sit down and write with him, but I was starting, so I was very green. It's very intimidating because these guys, they do that for a living, and they do more than one songs every day. They often, some of them will do even three songs
Hmm.
a day. So when they're stuck, they kind of lose patience. It's like, well, this should be easier. So it's very intimidating, and but it's a great experience. But nowadays, I write pretty much on my own. I would say the last song that was a true co-write was June and July, but most of them, the way it works is I write the song, and then I get with my buddy Danny Rader, who's my producer, produced most of my recent stuff, and the guy's a genius. He was on tour with Kenny Chesney. He's on all the big albums that Kenny Chesney, Jason Aldean's, John Party, Thomas Rhett, Dierks Bentley. He's on all the big albums. Amazing session player, producer, songwriter. He's a CMA
Hmm.
musical director for Country Christmas. He's at CMA Awards, CMA Fest. He's there. He's the guy, and real genius. So what I do is I sit down with him, and I play the song, and he just challenges me on the lyrics, challenges me on the structure of the song, the chord progression, the arrangement, and all that. So at the end of the day, he helps me make the song uh, better, way better. So
Right.
a co-write credit, and but and sometimes I just have a chorus, and that's the case for June and July. I just had a chorus, an idea of a chorus,
Hmm.
and he came up with the melody of the verse and the storyline and all that. So we did that together. But yeah, I'm open to do some co-writes, but usually I mostly write by myself,
Yeah.
and I just go reach out to people like my Christmas song. I reached out to Clarence J because I know he produced a bunch of Christmas songs, so I wanted his input, and he challenged me on the lyrics, and I changed the song because of that, and also on the structure, the chord progression, for the bridge and all that, to add all that the jazzy
Yeah.
stuff, that Christmas songs have. So that was great. Uh,
Yeah.
but yeah, that's pretty much how I work. But I'm like I said, I've cut outside songs, and I'm totally open to cut an outside song
Hmm.
if it's a great song that I connect to, and I feel people will connect with. Yes, totally, I want to do it.
Yeah. Well, that's funny that you, with your producer, you kind of make them a part of the song when they challenge you. When my producer challenges me, get ready to start fighting. I want to take him outside and deal with it. But that's, I guess that's the difference between you and me. You may have a lot better personality than I do.
Yeah, and I also feel like musicians, they should get a portion. Sometimes those musicians, they will come up with those licks that are memorable, that make that are part of the
Yeah,
song.
absolutely.
And man, I feel like a woman, that dun, 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 dun. I mean,
Yeah, that fiddle. Yeah.
I mean, the guy that came up with that needs to have a credit on the song. I mean, because
Yeah.
that's huge. That's really huge. It's not just a little strumming pattern. It's really iconic
Right.
lick.
Well, I do think I think the producer on that was Mutt Lang, who I think was married to Shania at least at the time, so he
Yeah.
did get a cut. He got a
I don't know if he
big
came
cut.
up with that or if it was Shania or who came
I
up
don't
with
know
that
either.
lick, but that's
I don't
uh,
know
that's
either.
that's a crazy lick.
Yeah. So you record all this in Nashville, I guess, a lot of your stuff with your guy Danny?
Yeah, so yeah, I record a lot of stuff with Danny. The way we work, he's producer, but I'm also kind of a co-producer. Sometimes I will go have some over because I pre-mix my song. I make sure I have everything that I'm hearing that's in the track. So sometimes I will overdub drums. I will overdub guitars or fiddle. Well, fiddle. Danny handles it. He's very good friends with Janae Fleener, and so she plays fiddle on my track. Wow, she's like the best. She's a CMA Musician of the Year, CMA Award Musician of the Year, a bunch of years in a row. I'm pretty sure she's going to win again this year. She's so amazing. She's so great, and a lot of so talented, but such a great person. Fun to be around, And yeah, so I kind of handle a little bit of production. I take care of cutting my vocals. Not at home. I go in the studio. I go either at Starstruck Studio or Blackbirds because they have the mic that works for me. Not every studio has it, and
Mhm.
they're really good. They have great engineers, and I just sing it, and then I go back home and I do the comping and everything, and I take care. Like I said, I go into the session. I listen to everything, and have lots of fun doing that. There's a song that I released,
Yeah.
Whiskey Woman, and the intro. There's a banjo in the intro. That's the intro of the song, but that wasn't the original intro of the song. That's a part that I took from the end of the song that I thought was, whoa, wait a minute, what's that? This is very cool. And I
Mm.
just I just copied and pasted and created a brand new intro to the song because I thought it was so cool. And fooled around, and I had to modify
Yeah.
a little bit of the fiddle because the fiddle was coming in at the beginning, so I had to change the fiddle to make it work with the rest. But I had lots of fun doing that. So
Do you play banjo?
no, no, no. I play guitar.
Okay.
I'm not Keith Urban. I'm not Brad Paisley, but enough to be able to write songs, and follow along. Uh,
Yeah.
but yeah, no, I never tried banjo or ganjo or
Hmm. Well, yeah. Well, I've got a few. I own some,
yeah.
so I'm not the best. Yeah. So your song "More Than You Think" has been getting a lot of attention, and you co-wrote that with Danny Rader. Tell us
Yep.
about that song specifically and how it came to life.
Well, the process, we talked about it earlier. I just, have a tendency. I just sit down with my guitar and I fool around. I start a chord progression and I just let it out. And sometimes it's only halfway through the song that I realize, oh, this is about, my grandparents. My grandfather had a huge influence, and
Mm.
and and it's really just let it out. I remember for this one, I had the first line of the song. There's a light rain pouring down, and I was like, oh, this is kind of sad and all that, and I just let it out, and it just came out that way, and I'm so happy because I wasn't planning, oh, today I'm going to write a song about my grandparents or my grandfather Leo. It just happened like that, and then I had the song for some time, and I I like, oh, so I release a new song every 6 to 8 weeks. And I was looking at the calendar. I was ready to release a new track, and I look at the calendar, like, hey, okay, 6, 8 weeks. Okay, so this September 6th. Okay, that's a Friday. Good. And then I'm like, oh my God, September 8th is National Grandparents' Day. It really was planned that way, but I'm so happy that it did happen that way, because the song got more exposure, more traction because of that. And I'm very happy, because it's a way to say thank you, to my grandparents, and I'm
Yeah.
happy about this one.
Yeah, that's pretty neat. That's a really good heartfelt thank you for sure. So do you think you how have you've been kind of doing this music thing at least professionally for about 10 years. Do you think you've improved or changed or developed into a different person than you were? I know a lot of times with my older songs, it almost feels like that a different person wrote it, just because I'm so different now, and I'm so hopefully I'm for the better, but not always for the better. I was a much sweeter, gentler person when I started writing songs than I am now. I'm much different now. So how have you changed since you started?
Well, it did change. I did change a lot. Kids are getting older, problems are getting different, and so yes, of course, I do change. And I did change when I listened to what I was doing back then. It did change a lot, but it's totally normal, and I just embrace it. I just embrace it, because you don't want to fabricate it. You want it to be honest, genuine, and true. So
Hmm.
if that's the kind of music that comes out of me, then that's what it is. you know I can't,
Yeah.
it could be, some could look at, the charts or TikTok, and what's trending is like, oh, I need to write a song about this, and I need to use these, this and this word,
Mm.
and try and do that. But what's the fun? No, it needs to come from me,
Yeah, you're right.
my life experience,
It
and what I'm
does.
seeing around me. So yeah, that's how I do it. But definitely, there's a big difference.
Yeah, yeah, you can want to treat your songs and your even your career as a destination, as a series of steps on a staircase to get where you want to be. But when you start thinking about it as the road, and it being a you're just on a journey, then it really changes from. And that reminds me of your newest release called Road I'm On, which actually addresses a lot of that stuff. It's a really good song, and it also it addresses your grandparents, and I don't know if it addresses your grandparents, but it does address your parents and that
Yeah.
thing that happened to you with that. So tell me more about that.
Yeah, so yeah, and that's a song that I was fooling around for a long time, and because this one was a little hard to write. It's very personal, close to me, and sometimes I just I can't do it.
Absolutely.
It was hurting too much, and yeah, yeah, trying to, and sometimes you want to let it out, but then you pour too much into it, and it becomes too dramatic. So I'm like, oh, I need to, back off a little bit. And but I'm really happy
Hmm.
about this one, and it's really about myself. My dad abandoning us when I was 5, and he started a new life. We didn't
Yeah.
know about it. Got remarried, didn't know about it. I mean, he was sending some money because the court forced him to, but
Right.
he was, calling, hey, school is starting. Do you have shoes? Do you have, a jacket? Are you good? Do you have everything? You have money to buy,
Yeah.
your books or whatnot. He just, he didn't care. And so it was
Wow.
tough. And like I said, it just left a big hole inside of me, a big questioning. I
Yeah.
started very young age. I started questioning life. Why did it happen? Why did it happen
Hmm.
this way? And started analyzing everybody, analyzing how life was working. So it had a huge impact on me. And so I just wrote the song, and I'm really happy about it, because it's really kind of who I am, just
Yeah.
that where the past is always present, that what happened is
Yeah.
always going to be part of me, and it's going to follow me on the road. And I just hope that one day I get peace of mind I get peace of mind. So yeah, I'm very happy
Yeah.
about this, how it turned out.
That's my favorite. That's my favorite line when in that song with when you break up into your falsetto there, and it's talking about your peace, the peace, and that's a really good line.
Thank you.
So I really like the song altogether. It's really sweet and really heartfelt, but also it's really smart, because, and I think your song has a chance to connect to a lot of people, because a lot of, my parents are divorced, and I would think 50% of people, their parents are divorced, and 100% know someone whose parents are divorced. So like there's a lot of pain there that's it's easy to bypass because it happens to all of us. But my baby brother, he still struggles really with my parents. I mean, it happened a little closer to when he was young. So I think your song is really powerful, and I bet you're really happy that you wrote it.
Yeah, and I mean that's why we do it. We release it to the world, and
Hmm.
we just hope that people will connect and relate to it, and it could help them, find some kind of healing or something, get something out of it. And
Yeah.
I hope it does for this one.
Yeah, I bet it's cathartic for you too. I bet you, as you write it, and I know that happens to me a lot of times when I write. When I write, I'm learning as much about how I feel as I am telling the story of how I feel. I'm learning it kind of at the same time as I address it and as I phrase it. I'm like, oh yeah, that's how I feel about that.
Yeah, yeah, I did have that moment writing this song where, it's
Hmm.
like it starts to hurt a little bit. It's like, oh, okay. But
Yeah,
I'm
I
glad
can
I
see
was
that.
able to. I'm glad I was able to finish it, and that it's coming out. It's finally coming out, because I've had this one for quite some time, and I was like, I don't know if
Yeah.
I want to release it, but then I'm like, hey, let's just release it.
So we also saw a video on your YouTube channel called "You Were There," which is a tribute
Yes.
to Renee Angelil,
Yep.
Celine Dion's late husband. And the reason I'm asking you this is because Holly, my wife and producer, is the number one, bar none, Celine fan in the world. I don't think there's any question. We don't have any memorabilia in our house, but she has a ton of Celine stuff from shows she's been to, autograph stuff, and such a big love in her heart for Celine. She clicks on every YouTube video that she sees with her on it. It's really ridiculous. So tell us about what the connection is between you and Renee or Celine or some or
I've met her a couple times, and but it started at the beginning of my music career. Before I made the move to Nashville. Uh, I, at one point, her brother Jacques was. We were close to him, and he was thinking, of maybe being my manager. So he was getting involved and all that, and we were trying to figure out if this was a good fit, for both of us. And so we started hanging out, had dinner at his place, and with his wife and his son, and all that. And what he did, he reached out to Renee, and Renee was able to set up a meeting with Jim Catino, who was big A&R at Sony Music Nashville back then, when it was still on Music Row. And so he got us a meeting, and we flew to Nashville. He flew to Nashville. I mean, no, I was already there at that time. So he flew in to Nashville, went in the meeting with Jim Catino, and so that's where the connection is. At the end of the day, we decided that we weren't the right fit together because he could speak English, but he didn't have all the connections, in Nashville, and he rapidly understood how much, Nashville, it's all about, tight connection. It's a family and all that. So he's like, it was like,
Definitely.
I'm not going to help you if I'm your manager. I can help you in many other, spheres, but not the Nashville one. So we never,
Hmm.
that's when it stopped. But still, I'm so thankful that I had that meeting with Jim Catino, because that's when Jim Catino explained that, you need to live in Nashville if you want the major labels and, the publishers and everything
Hmm.
to help you, because you're showing them that you're fully committed. It's a plan A. It's not a plan B. It's not something you're doing a weekend here and there or a few months and going back home, that you are just
Hmm.
trying to make it. No, you're actually in Nashville making it happen. So that's when I decided to move permanently to Nashville. It's after that meeting in the discussion I had with Catino. But from there, there were some talks of me maybe doing a duet with Celine, which would have been crazy. That was scaring me a lot. That was very scary. I was like, yeah, that'd be cool. I'm not sure I want to do that now, because I was just starting. But and then we
Right.
with Jimmy Nichols and Frank Myers, we sat down knowing that, and I had this song, You Are There, that I was working on, and we just finished the song together.
Hmm.
So it's a co-write with them from ideas I had that we polished and everything, and this song came about, and we felt like Celine, it was a song for Celine, and having that connection with Jacques, we could pitch it to Celine
Hmm.
and do all that. So that's how the song came
Yeah.
about. And and then it was Wendy Moten that did the vocals on this. It's kind of a demo, but
Hmm.
years after, when Renee passed, I felt like, oh, let's just do this, because it was so in line with what Celine was going through. The song was
Hmm.
for her and all that.
Yeah.
So I just put it out there, and just did that video, with all the pictures, the beautiful pictures of
Yeah.
Renee and Celine and their love story. They have a beautiful love story. And so, yeah, that's how this song came
Yeah.
about, and the connection with Celine, Renee, her brother Jacques, and that's how it happened. And she did love the song, by the way.
She did.
Yeah, she did. She
Yeah,
and
when we saw her in Vegas, I guess it was 2008. What year was it, Holly? 2004, she said. So we saw her in Vegas in 2004, and it was a phenomenal show. It's such a cross between like a Broadway show and the most phenomenal musical thing you've ever heard. The with all the drama going on, with all the and also with the power of her voice backing it up. I really have never had any interest in that, in theater, but
yeah,
and just went as to be with Holly, but it was such a powerful thing that I'll never forget it. So
yeah. She's an amazing performer. And just
yeah,
recently,
definitely.
when she did that song at the the French Olympics, it was insane. I mean,
Hmm.
she's so good,
There's
so
power
good.
there.
Yeah.
So let's get back to Robby here. We've veered off. So you've got a great Christmas single, "Oh Santa Please," and you've done a few Christmas singles, but I've got to say this one specifically seems like it needs to be on everybody's holiday playlist. Maybe even like a Die Hard or a Hallmark movie. Even like it's such a great. The production, the song's great, and the production is so Christmassy.
It's so crazy. This song has an incredible backstory, because I wasn't planning on writing, cutting, releasing a Christmas song. Those are done, like in July or August. But it was like in the beginning of October, and one night uh, I was going to bed, and I was feeling, my family made lots of sacrifices, to be for us to be in Nashville, to make the big move and all that. And I went to bed with a feeling where I was kind of letting them down, because I didn't have that,
Uh-oh.
career life changing hit, major hit that changes everything. And crazy enough, the following morning, I wake up with the first line of the first verse and the melody of the song, Christmas song, "Oh Santa Please," and it came to me as a gift, and I really do have a feeling that you know the song already existed. We talked about this earlier. I have a feeling the song already existed. It was meant to be, and it was just gifted to me.
So everybody go check out Robby's Christmas single, "Oh Santa Please." It's going to be coming out here pretty quick. You can find it wherever you can find music. Robby, thank you so much for being on the show. We have really enjoyed our time talking to you.
Thank you so much, Anthony. Yes, it was a great conversation and a lot of fun. And yes, go take a listen to that Christmas song that's out there. "Oh Santa, please." I'm so grateful about this song, and I really feel like it was a gift.
Yeah, absolutely. Also go check out the road I'm not the road I'm on, Road I'm On by Robby. It's a great song too, and it's really heartfelt. Robby, again, thank you so much, and we'll see you down the road.
Awesome. Yes. Thank you so much, Anthony. See you.
All right, man. Talk to you later. Thank y'all for hanging out with us today on Come and Pick It. If you had a good time, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and drop us a review. It helps more folks find the show. Until next time, y'all keep picking it.